Hello, listeners. My name is Charles Scott. The program in which you are about to listen to is called Can We Talk? We come to you on a weekly basis, and I'm here with my son, Charles Scott Jr.
Junior, how you guys doing? As I say every week, if you missed the episode, if you're not seeing this on the cable, Optimum cable, go on TikTok, Twitter. There'll be links to YouTube. We got at least 100 episodes now. A lot of information on this show, not just real estate. We tell you what's going on in the economy, because in the end, it all affects real estate.
There's a lot of things that are happening, as we say every week. This week, we're going to talk a little bit about what's happened or what transpired in the past week. And one of the reasons what's happening with the real estate, shortage of properties, but looks better right now. The economy, the interest rates, we also not only talk about local issues, but we talk about some of the issues and current events and some of the things that will affect you here in Bridgeport, Connecticut, the surrounding area. We have an embargo going on right now.
The world. I want to talk about these tariffs.
A lot of things.
These people, I teach a lot of home buying classes, and now the new rumor is these tariffs are going to make some of the prices be reduced. But I've been talking to a lot of professionals who tell me it might be the opposite. Remember, with the tariffs on these materials that it takes to build the houses, it's going to be actually slowing the builders down. So at this point, the existing inventory is going to be even more, I'll say, tightly squeezed. So those of you who are waiting on the sidelines to see the after effect of these tariffs, I'll say the after effect most likely will be an increase in price, I will say.
Yeah, that would be something that we can talk about today. How are the tariffs going to affect real estate, or what's happening already? Mm-hmm. You got to realize that we have a big shortage of housing.
Yes.
And the shortage of housing is because of two things, and that is basically the cost of building a house. A lot of the developers, you've got big companies, Toll Brothers, they build thousands of houses.
Yep.
But even the small guy, the small independent, I remember years ago, the small independent contractor would find a piece of land, and you'd see a new house going up, and that house would be sold, and then they take the money from that house and go and buy another piece of land and build another house. And they went from house to house. Mm-hmm. And, people would see a brand new house coming up out of the ground. What's happening right now is that you have labor costs. A lot of the people that are doing the building, they have to figure out how much of a profit. Is it worth it for me to even build a house? Look at the lumber. Most of the lumber, a lot of it's coming from Canada.
Look at the lumber. Look at the labor that may have suddenly disappeared recently. What we're going to encounter is these builders to say whether or not they want to build a certain type of property. Now, what we're seeing a lot of is repurposing. You're seeing these warehouses, malls being repurposed into what we see luxury condos, luxury apartments. Because you think about from the builder's perspective, what can he invest into his property, get more money out of? It'll be less risk also.
The builder looks at it just like you look at what's happening on Wall Street. Mm-hmm. Wall Street, all I've been hearing about is that people don't like uncertainty.
Yes.
You want to be able, if I'm going to be a builder and I'm going to build a house, I want to figure in what my costs are going to be, and then I want to figure out what my labor will be, and then I'll figure out how much I can charge for that house and sell it for, and how much profit I will make. Mm-hmm. But if the cost goes up and down, up and down, up and down, well, I don't have an idea. If I put all this money into this house, at the end of the period, how much is it actually going to cost me to build it, and how much profit will I actually make? Because things are just really too uncertain. I really don't know. So people hold off on building that particular property.
No, exactly. Or sometimes what they'll do is they'll say, what property is guaranteed to make a lot of money? What I see a lot right now, besides luxury condos, I'm seeing senior housing. I see a lot of senior housing being built because they're seeing that the increasingly aged population is going to need somewhere to live. When they downsize, they're no longer moving to Florida, which has been like the average thing. What they're doing now is moving to assisted living, and that's what we're seeing a lot built also besides luxury condos.
Well, not only that, what's happening is that you look at the stock market. Mm-hmm. The stock market has been going through a lot of turmoils, and the whole thing there is that they don't like uncertainty because they don't know what's happening. Mm-hmm. So in the past, when the stock market fluctuates a lot, people pull the money out and they put it into bonds because bonds are more long-term, more stable, and it sort of, moves up and down, but slightly. It doesn't go have wild,
Great thing about bonds,
fluctuations.
they have a guaranteed interest rate that they're going to pay out.
Yeah, it's certainty.
Certainty.
You know what's happening. So look at a builder. If I'm a builder and I'm sitting on a lot of money, do I go out and build a house, or do I buy the land, or do I put it into a CD? I put it into a savings account and just let it earn money. And that's certainty. I know how much I'm going to make versus the uncertainty of all of it. So what you're going to see, I think, with a lot of the tariffs is that people are going to stop building as much as they were building. There's always some type of market to build, but you're going to see a lot of people, not building that much. Then also you're going to see a lot of the building in the past has been driven by first-time home buyers.
Yes.
The new people coming on the block buying these houses, So, and a lot of that housing was put out there because the people were able to get down payment assistance or grants, money to help the first-time home buyer. So if everything is like a perfect storm, you have the down payment money going away.
Yep.
You have the banks holding off on giving money to the builders. You have the costs going up. So you have a situation of where things will be stagnant for a while. But at the same token, should you buy? And the question is, depending upon your circumstances, if the rent is skyrocketing where you live,
I was going to say that.
then yes, you should buy a house, because it's not like there's a safe haven where you don't buy the house and everything else just stops going up.
Exactly. I was going to say that, where some people may say all these factors seem like it should be a time for me to sit to the side and wait for things to develop. But like I said, with the uncertainty, you may realize that you should get a house now because your rent's not going to go down anytime soon. Your landlord plans on increasing that rent each year because their cost is going up. While if you're ready to go, if you have the means to buy a house now, you lock in the mortgage now, so it'll basically play out your future better.
That's it. And what's happened is that you got to realize the cost of the housing is still going to be sort of stagnant in a way because of the cost incurred, but the values are still going up. We do see
Yes.
the appreciation still being there.
Definitely, I was going to say that's also, the prices are going up because, like I said, the inventory is tight. And right now, we're in spring. We're in April, May, June. This is, like I say, the Super Bowl of real estate. That's why I tell my clients, wait till spring to sell. Or if you want to get the most exposure, wait till these months, because this is the time where school's getting out, summer's getting out, and people are looking for houses.
So, another thing, if you're looking to sell a house right now is a good time.
This is a great time.
This is a great time to sell, because look at what's happening. There's a shortage in supply and demand. We keep saying that over and over and over again, but that's the basics of everything. And I keep telling everybody, when you look at national figures and you look at what's happening across the United States, and you try to apply all of this to real estate, there's also one curve in there that you have to factor in, which changes all of the dynamics for Connecticut, and that is we're close to New York.
Yes.
So we have an abundance of people. We have an abundance of money coming in from people that live looking back at my face at that screen, and look at those cities and look at those people. There's millions of people that live within those apartment buildings that you're looking at right there in the background. And these are people that have high incomes. These are people that, the income starts at $250,000, $300,000 a year. So they can afford a mortgage and a higher mortgage than the average person in Connecticut. So when they come across the border, there's still buyers that are looking to purchase, because if you're sitting in one of those buildings over there in the 120th floor looking down, and you can't even afford the car because the cost of just parking the car is more than a mortgage in Connecticut.
Exactly.
People in New York pay $1,000 a month just for a parking space.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Also, yeah, they're coming, I'll say, if anything, those buildings are empty. They're coming here to Connecticut because they're realizing they can still pay this actually lower rent, keep their job in New York, take the train back and forth. Bridgeport is situated perfectly for that type of life, that easy commute. get on the train, get to your job in Brooklyn, Bronx, Queens, and come back home in the evening. And what's happening is we're seeing that they're falling in love with this city, which is, I will say, is a good thing for the city because look at what we have out here. We have the amphitheater, we have this whole Mortgage Arena. I will say over the last 5 years since COVID, Bridgeport has actually sustained its value, if not increased its value, compared to other localities.
Yeah, even in driving to the studio today, we passed a lot of developments. We passed, two big developments in itself that had over 100 workers out there working, and all the cranes are out there and it's building. So there's a lot of developments that's going on.
They're seeing the future.
You know, and I would say that the construction that we passed today will be completed by the end of the year. And that's just one phase. There's a lot of apartments, buildings that are being, like you said, converted. In other words, maybe not a lot of them being completed from the ground up, but a lot of factory conversions.
Yeah, so we're going to see a lot less of that too, because the materials cost so much. They're saying I can turn this old mall, this old warehouse, into condos, lofts, stuff like that. And we're seeing the builders are having to pivot and make their strategy look different.
Yeah, you just said something there about conversions. I was talking to someone just yesterday, and we were talking about the malls. You know, malls are becoming, I'm not going to say a thing of the past, but, less and less occupancy.
Yes.
And we have a lot of malls in Connecticut that are being converted, or not totally converted, but adding housing into those malls. You have the West Farms Mall up near Hartford. You've got the
Trumbull Mall,
Trumbull Mall.
condo next to theirs.
You got the Post Mall. You got the Waterbury Mall. Most of these malls throughout the state are adding housing and commercial developments into them as far as game rooms or bounce. I think
they're adding things you would need in your community: dentist office, doctor's office,
doctor
urgent care, and they're trying to make it a hub where you'll be near the building and there'll be some shops also. So they're becoming a hybrid type of building now.
So we have a lot of different things that are happening within the state. And when you're talking about Bridgeport. Now, Bridgeport is like one area right here. But it's surrounded by suburbs. Like you got Stratford, you got Trumbull, we got Fairfield, we've got Easton, Reading, Norwalk, Stamford, Monroe. These are all names that if you live in New York and you live in Connecticut, we have a mix of everything.
Yeah.
You want to live in a city, you can live in Hartford, New Haven, Bridgeport. You want to live within 2 minutes outside the city, you got a suburb.
Trumbull, Stratford.
Prospect, whatever, Watertown, Oakville. Every city has 10 little communities where you can go out and have trees and forests and parks and lakes. So it's a nice state where you have within almost walking distance, much less driving distance, you could be from one area into another area.
There's definitely smaller counties out there, and that's something I express to my customers who may desire Bridgeport or Stratford but may not have a pre-approval to live here. There's a lot of other cities up the way, Seymour, Ansonia, Shelton, Derby, where there's actually more affordable properties and great-looking properties, too. It's just a matter of reopening and expanding your vision.
Yeah, like you just said there, if we, we're talking a lot about Fairfield County because that's where our main office is in Bridgeport and Fairfield County. But if you are coming in from New York, or even if you live here in Connecticut, there's a place for you, because what happens is that if you're coming in from the New York area, the first thing you're going to hit is Stamford and Norwalk, Fairfield County, where the prices are higher. Because the closer you get to New York, or the closer you're coming out of New York, that's where the prices are higher. And that's because the people with more money basically want to be closer to New York. So therefore, they pay more because they're right on the borderline. It doesn't take much to jump on a train or drive right into the city. Now, the further away you go, the prices drop down a little bit. But even if you go into Norwalk and Stamford, the prices don't drop all that much, because Norwalk and Stamford is only about half an hour from New York City.
Yeah, I was going to tell my clients, you don't really see a price drop until after we leave Bridgeport. After we get out of Bridgeport, we're going to start seeing some good price drops, but the properties actually get a little bit bigger. So I tell people to open their minds up to living in Derby and even Waterbury. Waterbury is a great place to live. There's certain parts of Waterbury town plot, certain parts where you'll realize there's actually that suburban feel, and you're so close to Route 8 to get back to down here in Fairfield, New York.
Yeah, and you're talking about like the transportation. One thing about our state is that the transportation is, allows for being able to get in and out to all sorts of areas. If you're in the center of Connecticut, for example, you could take Route 8, you could take the Merritt Parkway, you could take 84 East, 84 West. There's different, once you live here for a while, you got all kinds of shortcuts.
Yeah, you take the train if you want. There's certain train distances. There's the CT Fast Track. That's a special bus that goes directly to Hartford and down here without any stops. Yeah, a lot of transportation they're building throughout the state because they realize we have an influx of people from the city who may not drive also.
So there's a lot that you can do. There's a lot of opportunities. So, how we started off talking about this is it's a great time to sell. And the reason for it being, we have all of these people coming in all of these different ways. They're coming in on 84, they're coming in on 91, they're coming in on Route 8. Or if you live here, you're able to go to New York or go to the other areas where the incomes are higher. So there's a lot of flurry. We're not out in Texas. We're not out in the Midwest where you have to drive, 50 miles to get to the nearest, a mall or grocery store.
Oh, everything's central. This isn't
a lot
down
of activity.
south with a Piggly Wiggly or nothing like that. And also, I was going to say, also with the way it's working now, the biggest rebuttal I get when I tell somebody they should sell their house is, well, my house isn't ready to sell. But you realize we're in a seller's market. You can sell it as is. You do not have to fix every little thing in the house. There's certain things that you can sell. I mean, I'll tell you the truth. I have a house for sale right now. The furnace is broken. But you think I'm not getting calls? I'm getting calls every day. Like I said, it's still a seller's market. There's maybe things that you've been putting off to fix that you can have that reflect in the price.
Yeah, before the station started just now, before we started on the air, I got a call. And there was another agent calling about the property you're talking about. And I said, the furnace doesn't work. So therefore, we still get a lot of calls. And I told her, not only does the furnace not work, we got a lot of offers on that property already.
Yes.
That's without the furnace even working in the house. Because you have people that can repair the furnace.
Yes.
If I'm a HVAC person, that's the kind of house I'm looking for. I want to buy something that the furnace doesn't work because I don't have to go out and spend $15,000 to replace the furnace.
Exactly.
I can go and replace the furnace for $5,000. So maybe I'm going to get a good deal because I have the wherewithal to fix the furnace. Or I might have an extra furnace in my warehouse that I can just go and install within a day. So if I'm going to get $10,000 off the sale of that property, that's a good deal for me. Now, that's not a good deal for the first-time home buyer where everything has to work.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
Something for everybody.
We're in a seller's market where you can still sell your property as is. That's going to go to an investor most likely. It's going to be either a cash offer, hard money, where there's certain things in your house that would have to be fixed for a first-time home buyer that don't necessarily have to be fixed for an investor. Now, if we were in the opposite, which we are, I will say we are leaning to it. Do not wait forever. I can see this time next year saying, well, wasn't that a good seller's market? Now we're in a buyer's market where when the buyers are in control, that means you do have to have that item working. Or if you don't, you have to reduce your property by a certain amount or then start negotiating. That's when the buyers have power. But right now, I say the sellers are still in control for the moment.
Yeah, so you want to give us a call, like we talk about it constantly. We can come out and look at your property, give you an idea of what that property is worth. It's called a market analysis.
Free CMA is free.
Doesn't cost you anything.
And you may say, oh, well, Zillow gives me that every day. But remember, Zillow, like I said, is a marketing company. They're an algorithm. They're not looking inside of the house. You may have something different with your house, maybe a jacuzzi, maybe you have a pool in the back, or maybe you finish downstairs and Zillow doesn't know that. That can add value that only me and him can really evaluate and add that to your overall end cost.
A lot of people do repairs and they do extras in their house, and no one is aware of the extras but that person.
Yes.
So you might look at a internet and say, oh, it says my house is worth this. Well, they can't look in the window. They only looking at the outside. They got a satellite that goes over and looks at your house.
Exactly.
This is how big it is. This has got 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, backyard. It's worth this. Well, that's not a real, it's like if you go to trade a car in to buy a new car, you can't call on the phone and say, well, how much is my car worth? Well, the first thing they're going to do is give you a lowball number because they don't know exactly, what condition it is, so they don't want to say it's worth a whole lot. You show up and you got, bald tires, scratches, dents, this, and you say, well, you told me it was worth this amount. Well, I didn't know it was going to look like this. So just on the opposite of that, if you got a house and you've done some repairs, it could be worth more than what you think it's worth. And then on top of that, it could be in disrepair and still be worth more than what you think it is.
Oh yeah, people don't realize, we've had some clients in the past who've been in their house for 20 years. They don't realize this house to them, they've grown used to it. They've grown used to this size room, this size kitchen. But when someone from New York comes, they'll see, wow, this person's in love with the house. They're calling it a mansion while you were calling it a shack. You got to realize people have different points of view, and the house that you've been in forever may look small to you. To another person, that may be the biggest house they've ever owned or been in.
When you list the property, with us, you get a lot of exposure. What brings the price of your property up is putting together a whole lot of people and having them bid on the property.
More eyes on the property,
The
the better.
more people, the better. The more exposure, the better. Put it this way, you got a house is for sale. 3 people look at it. How much can you actually get from 3 people? Do the opposite. 300 people look at that house. How much do you think you're going to get for it? Go a little further. 3,000 people look at that house. Now, I don't mean physically they come walking in the door.
No.
But we as realtors, the way real estate works is we belong to the multiple listing service. What that is it's a way of taking that property and sharing it amongst our members. Right now, we've got like 2,300 members within the state of Connecticut. These are real estate agents. When you list the property with us, you're not only listing it with us because we can share it with all those 2,300 other realtors out there. And they see all the inside. They get to see the video. We do a nice video.
Yes.
We show them what it looks like. We give them all of the dimensions. Now, those 2,300 realtors might have connections with a lot of people in New York. Even the people in New York can see it. Now, we're not even talking about where it's shared on the internet, Zillow, website. Now you got hundreds of thousands of people that are actually aware of that property.
Yep.
So you're getting top dollar, you're getting the most for that property because you have so many people that are aware of your property being for sale. It's not a matter of let's say we have a lot of times, we call them FSBOs, for sale by
Yes,
owner.
the FSBOs.
That's where an owner tries to sell the property himself. You know that 90% of those people that try to sell a property themselves eventually end up coming back to a real estate agent to sell the property.
I would say most times you can tell it's a FSBO, on Zillow, because usually the house is overpriced. What it is, they don't have someone holding their hand or educating them on what the house should be valued at. And what happens is they lose time on the market. They end up finding a realtor, then they realize, they could have sold a house in April, now it's December type of thing. So definitely, I'll say, when selling your house, you're going to see a lot of these bandit signs, we buy houses for cash, or get those letters in the mail, those phone calls every day. Remember, those people are going to talk to you into one number, see the house in person, and they always go down. I never see them go up.
Well, the other thing you got to look at is this. If you're trying to sell a property on your own, you have a limited amount of people that you're showing that house to, or exposure.
Yep.
So how do you do it? You put a sign up in the yard, for sale by owner. You put a sign on the side of the wall. How many people are actually looking at the people that drive by? And the people that drive by, after a while, they're the same people. So, or the neighbors, it's the same people. these are not the people that know about your house in New York that are coming in. These are not the people throughout the state. But by listing the property with a real estate agent, you get instant, the next day, people know about your property. So the other thing is that familiarity breeds contempt. You get your neighbors on the same street, you got your sign up there. They say, oh, your house ain't worth all of that much. I remember that house when it was sold back, when you bought it. You only paid $80,000. Now you want $350,000, $400,000? You're crazy. Yeah, I remember that house. That was my cousin's house. Or all the people in the neighborhood, people in the area, they all know the house, so that they don't give you credit. They're just like, oh, I wouldn't give you that much for this house here. So now here you have your for sale by owner sign on the front yard. All the people driving by are looking over saying, this guy's crazy for trying to sell this house for this much money. Now here comes someone in from Manhattan or New York. They're paying $4,000 a month rent for a one bedroom. They're like, wow, this is a beautiful house. It's got grass. It's got a backyard. This is what I've been looking for. So, but you're not going to get that exposure with your for sale by owner signs sitting in your front yard. That's what we do.
Oh, and also I was going to say, those who do FSBOs, you try to sell yourself. I mean, go ahead, you can try to sell yourself. I'm not trying to stop you, but remember, when you have a realtor there, they're going to guide you through the process. Imagine the type of offers you're going to get sent to you. I mean, I'll say you have to be careful on the offer you choose too. We get escalation clauses. We get mortgage companies who are fly-by-night, might be gone the next week. We do a lot of work once we get an offer. We don't just choose an offer. We guide you to the right offer as far as we vet the mortgage person. Are they solid? Remember, in the end, the offer is only as strong as the mortgage behind it. The house could go down for appraisal. So you want to make sure you have a real estate agent there to help you through this process. As some people, they were just opening the door. We do a lot of stuff in the background.
So if you're looking to sell a house, call us. We're professionals. We've been in business now going on many, many years, on 40 years. We can give you a lot of exposure, get you top dollar. Our motto is we get you top dollar. Give us a call. You see the number right there.
Right there.
Call myself, call my son, and we'll gladly be able to take care of you. So hopefully today, we gave you a lot of insight. We're letting you know that, that now is a good time to get out there and spring clean. Have us come out and give you some tips. Put that, and get you the top dollar for your house.
Exactly.
Till next week, God bless.
Amen.